Rise and shine, you splendid slabs of meat. Colosseum Day's only 3 days away, so we're gonna have a hard day of training.
The sweet relief of slumber fell away, and Troy opened his eyes. His body groaned a little, as the little bed he slept in was quite unpleasant. It was only marginally softer than the floor. Slowly he sat up and rolled his shoulders in slight protest. Troy was a muscular man, slightly above average in height compared to his countrymen. He had earned his physique due to living the exciting life of a soldier. That life seemed quite strange and distant when considering his current situation. The truth of the matter was that his nation had been conquered, and so, in all likelihood, he might never live that life again. Under the brutal heels of his oppressors, he was indeed only a splendid slab of meat. He rose from his bed, stretched momentarily, and then emerged from his small room. His living space, if it could even be called that, was large enough to house a bed and a small dresser. A faded and dirty curtain hung before the doorway, offering him the illusion of privacy. As soon as he emerged, he stood before the doorway with his arms held behind his back, just like every other gladiator slave. The other gladiator slaves came in all manner of shape, size, shade, and background. This was due in part to how ravenous the Athena Empire was in acquiring land and subjecting people under their will. Troy wore a pair of tight-fitting leather pants, a pair of leather boots, and he was shirtless. This was the preferred attire, as per the wishes of the Lady Lord of the House of Vivian. The taskmaster Barbara walked down the center of the hallway, dressed in a mustard yellow-colored studded leather jerkin, a bright red skirt, and a pair of sandals. Nestled within her delicate hands was a 3-foot wooden club. Shortly after his arrival, Troy learned firsthand what she could do with the thick weapon. She was shorter than Troy, with long brown hair tied into braids that went down her back, and she had a pair of brown eyes.
I'm delighted to share some wonderful news with you all. The next Colosseum Day will be a most special affair. You see, my lovely slabs of meat, the Empress herself is going to be in attendance. That means all of you are expected to give wonderful performances. It has been whispered that Her Mighty Highness is going to bestow freedom to the champion who gives the greatest show. Did you hear me, meat? Freedom. Fight well and earn yourself a means of escape in your current lot in life. I believe in you and pray to the goddess that the day's high champion will be from our stocks.
Barbara casually strolled up to one of the gladiators and then struck him in the elbow, hard. His crime, slouching slightly.
Ned, your posture is abhorrent. I will not have you dishonor us in front of the Empress. Do 1,000 squats after breakfast to sharpen your mind and remind you to present yourself with statuesque poise.
Yes, Taskmaster.
Barbara calmly strode before each of the gladiators, and she reviewed them with a critical eye. Whenever she noticed something out of place, or something she did not care for, she struck the man and gifted him with physical exercise to do after breakfast. She stopped in front of Troy, and a wide smile creased her face.
Troy, you are by far one of the prettiest slabs of meat we have. Oh, I would love to drag you into the dark and break you to my will. Oh, but you are one of Lady Vivian's greatest possessions. The Empress has expressed great interest in seeing your fight against Preston.
A cold spasm flared within Troy's stomach, and he averted his eyes for a second to the man in question. Preston had a larger nose, a pair of giant eyes, and a pair of almost comically smaller lips. Regardless of those features, Preston was always the bigger, stronger person between them. Preston even towered over Troy by at least 5 inches.
I will give the best show I can, Taskmaster. May we all have glory in the arena.
What would you do with your freedom if you won it, Troy? Would you finally stop being so coy and come to my bedroom?
I would return to my home, Taskmaster, to my wife, who is waiting for me.
How long have you been a gladiator slave, Troy?
3 years, Taskmaster.
And you really think she's still waiting for you?
It is the only thing that keeps me going, Taskmaster.
Well, hold on to it then, and bring glory to yourself and the House of Vivian.
May the House of Vivian never fall.
Barbara started moving toward the exit of the hallway, but struck a poor gladiator named Kenny for no specified reason. She positioned herself by the door and then gazed back down the corridor.
Be aware that your Lady Lord, Lady Vivian, will be hosting a hen party today. So you will have an audience to watch you train. With that being said, you will all train in your underwear as to ensure Lady Vivian's guests are most satisfied.
With that, Barbara turned around and disappeared deeper into the facility. Some of the other men looked toward one another, whispering to one another. Every now and then, someone would gesture toward either Preston or him. However, Troy and Preston just looked at one another. Great pain welled within his eyes, and a sick acid sloshing had begun to fester in him. The same pain was in Preston's expression. Troy turned his head away first, and then moved toward the doorway that led to the mess hall. His stomach gurgled angrily, perhaps due in part to both the emotional anguish of what was to come and the need to eat something. He moved into the mess hall and got in line to get his meal. The kitchen was operated by male slaves who were deemed unfit to fight in the arena or were too ugly by the House of Vivian standards. It was that ugliness that spared them the brutality of the sand, dust, and blood of the Colosseum. Every cook he passed gave Troy mournful looks or determined nods. None of them could speak, though, as Barbara had removed all of their tongues. Every month, on the day of a full moon, a Colosseum Day would be held in honor of the moon goddess. Lives would be snuffed out in her glory, and to entertain the rich and poor alike. For 3 long years, Troy had endured all the obstacles set before him. He slew every opponent and overcame every challenge. And now, would he win again? Troy's meal was 3 fried eggs, 3 links of sausage, and a mound of fried potatoes, along with a glass of orange juice. Troy sat at one of the unoccupied tables in the back. Ever since it was announced who he was going to fight in the next Colosseum Day, he had been doomed to sit alone. It was understandable, but still. Loneliness was a vengeful monster, with terrible claws made from whispered truths and venomous doubts. A large, greasy man who went by the name of Monty sat across from Troy. A wicked sneer was on his round face, Missing teeth were exposed behind cracked lips. Monty's eyes were narrowed and small, giving him a snake-like appearance. While he was a portly man, Monty had godly stamina. It was a shame he was born to look so villainous.
I wish I could trade you. You know that any of us would trade you, yes?
Yes, I know.
Tell me, friend, why do you fight so fiercely? What is your reason to live?
You know why I fight. You know why I have to live.
Of course I know. We all do. You need to remind the gods and goddesses, friend, so they can make the best decision on who shall emerge victorious.
Screw the gods and goddesses. Their decisions led us to this point in time. Why should they care now when one little gladiator besieges them?
You mustn't say that, my friend. Not you. Not if you hope to gain all the advantage you can. You need every favor you can get, even if it comes from the gods and goddesses.
Did we not pray when we were in the mud on the fields of Graynor? Did we not offer up rituals to them when we prepared to clash against the armies of the Athena Empire? Did we not beg the gods and goddesses some chance of escape so we might return to our families? And what did we get?
Preston still prays and honors them. Would it not be incredibly cruel if he won because of that?
I don't care what he does. I cannot honor them when I have nearly lost everything.
Nearly lost, but not totally. Not yet. Troy, freedom is on the line. Can't you see that?
I am well aware of that, Monty. More than you could ever possibly know. But I cannot pray to them. If I am to win, then I shall do it with my own blood, my own tenacity, and my own luck.
You will not pray? Fine. But I will pray for you. Not that you win or lose, but that you finally achieve the peace you deserve. The great reward that you've been moving toward. 3 years in this hell. And to finally be here with this outcome. It is not fair.
Troy reached over and placed a hand on Monty's shoulder.
Save your prayers for yourself. You're fighting in the arena too.
But no one cares about my fight. I will not be eligible for an imperial pardon.
Troy took back his hand, and he stared into the depths of his plate, not really looking at anything, but studying the exterior of his own fears, his growing anxiety.
From a certain perspective, no matter how the match turns out, I shall be free. I will either go to Veronica, or I shall wait for her to come to me.
You could win.
But at what cost? Are Preston's reasons to live any lesser than mine?
I would trade you. I swear it.
I know, my friend. I know.
A gentle breeze wrapped around Troy as he stepped outside into the training grounds. The training grounds were a little ways away from the gladiator barracks and were between it and the grand villa where the house of Vivian lived. Their master, Lady Vivian, had a luxurious estate in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by rolling farmland, forests, and nature. Armed guardswomen patrolled the area or watched from tall watchtowers. When Troy had first arrived, a pair of men had tried to escape and were sniped from one of the watchtowers. As he was commanded, Troy and the other gladiators were dressed in only their underwears. Velvet fabric covered his crotch, and a thin line of cloth ran up his ass crack. The thin line was designed to accentuate his ass cheeks, and it was a fashion innovation that Troy loathed. Troy went to the weapons rack and pulled out his weapon of choice, a wooden training spear. Monty had already selected a massive two-handed war maul, and Preston, he had a sword and shield. Lady Vivian and her entourage were perched on a second-floor balcony overlooking the training area. They sat together, eating snacks, drinking wine, and making comments to one another. Even from a distance, Troy saw their starving eyes that wished to delight in closer encounters. Troy swung his spear in wide arcs as to warm his muscles up, and he allowed his mind to uncouple from his body. Thrust, thrust, spin, parry, thrust. Over and over, on and on. Troy's breathing came with a steady rhythm, and soon he imagined soldiers of the Athena Empire in front of him. He began to fight harder and with more force. Projected conversation started to carve nicks into his focused attention, however.
What magnificent thrust work! I'd love to have him thrust into me.
He's a finer man than your husband, certainly. And look at the way his ass jostles.
Would you really sully yourself with low-born foreigners? Yes, they are handsome, but what if you became with child? You would become tainted by impure blood.
My friends, let it not be said that the House of Vivian is not generous with its bounties. All of you, meet! Stand at attention so my friends may see the splendors I possess.
Troy stopped his spear work and moved to stand in line beside his fellow gladiators. There they stood, all gazing up at the line of noble and married ladies. Most of Lady Vivian's guests were pleased, with the exception of a pair of older aristocrats.
Gladiators, I will give you an opportunity to earn some additional glory, as well as some golden coins, a free meal, and a chance to sleep in a noble bed. I will not force you, though I could if I wished, but as I am a kind master, I will let you volunteer.
A knot formed in the pits of Troy's stomach, for this sort of offering had happened several times before in his 3-year tenure. Thankfully, Lady Vivian was not the sort to force people to indulge her lusty companions.
My guests, Lady Lucy of House Lucy, Lady Gwen of House Gwen, Lady Monica of House Monica, and Lady Jennifer of House Jennifer have expressed interest in having relations with one of you. I need 4 volunteers to
Actually, can I have 2? I've always wanted to.
My, you are greedy, aren't you? Still, the House of Vivian is not one to retract its offers. I need 5 volunteers. Step forward, so my friends can make their selections.
Of the 35 gladiators, only 7 did not step forward. Of the 7, 2 were Troy and Preston.
Why do you not step forward, oh great Troy, champion of the Colosseum? Surely you know all of us would fight over you. Step forward to be considered, and I promise you, such delights.
While you provide a most tempting offer, I am married, and if given the choice, will not partake of any delights.
I don't care if you're married. Psh, I am married. Please, 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 Vivian, surely you can entice him to be with me. I need him.
The choice is his and his alone, at least in terms of that.
Fine. Oh, all right. How about you, Preston? A champion in your own right and obviously well endowed. Come, step forward and play with me.
My apologies, my lady. I will also decline. For I too have a wife and family to return home to. Besides, I will be fighting to display the honor of House Vivian before the Empress. I must avoid getting injured at all, so I may perform well in the arena. All for the glory of House Vivian.
Yes, you bring up a splendid point. And you have also given me a grand idea. Step back, all of you. I have changed my mind. There will be no sex to be had. We will watch something better.
No sex? What is better than sex?
How would you all like to see a sneak peek of the grand match? Preston, the Panther of Graynor, will have an exhibition match against Troy the Falcon Spear. What do you say to that?
To see brother fight against brother in an up-and-close match would be lovely.
Ooh, this is better than sex. But after the expedition, can we still have a taste of your gladiator stock?
Yes, please to that.
I will consider it. Now, the rest of you make a ring. Preston, Troy, meet in the middle and give us a show.
The other gladiators gathered around in a large circle, while Troy and Preston walked to the middle of the circle. Barbara came over to them. She began checking their equipment, but ogled both Troy and Preston openly.
I regret that fate has led us here. It is most unfair.
I can agree with that sentiment. Would it have been better to have died in the mud back on the plains of Graynor? A part of me wonders if that fate would have been preferable.
We both have reasons to live, and reasons to win.
But we can't both win. We'll enter together, as we always have. But that is where our paths must diverge. I anguish over how the world will change for us once the match concludes.
As do I. Veronica was pregnant back then, which means I am a father now.
Which means I am an uncle. Congratulations. You should have told me long ago.
Had I uttered the words, I would have collapsed in on myself. I thought them every day, but never gave myself the liberty to speak them aloud.
Why utter them aloud to me now? Do you hope it will spur me to falter?
Oh my goodness. Psh, what are they doing? Fight!
I don't expect you to falter. I have not forgotten that you have made me an uncle 3 times already. I suppose I'm uttering them aloud to remind the gods and goddesses why I fight.
You lost faith in the gods and goddesses. Do you hope to tilt the advantage in your favor?
I hope to go home one day and hold my wife.
We cannot both go home.
I am well aware.
Go on with it!
I love you, brother. More than nearly anyone else in this world.
I feel the exact same way.
Then let's make a pact. The survivor will care for the other's family until the end of their days.
That is fair. I agree.
You will begin the exhibition match now!
Troy stepped back and leveled his spear in front of him. Meanwhile, Preston lifted his shield and brought his sword to the side, angled down and away.
To ensure the survival of our bloodline and our family, we must give the Empress such a show.
It will be the greatest performance of our lives, for the good of our families.
For the good of our families.
Troy leapt in with his spear as tears streaked down his cheeks.